So, can you, how's the lighting there? Can you see? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, just before we start, I'll just have a quick overview. So, how do you want to do this? You want to do it interview style? Is it kind of like podcasting, or are we going to both chat or share things, or how did you want to do it?
Yeah, so I'm really curious on your experience because I know that you were vegan for a really long time. I was only vegan for 4 years and I still fell apart. I also had somebody comment on one of my ex-vegan videos that I should do a collaboration with you, and I told her, oh, we're already in the works of doing it.
Okay.
So yeah, I think a few people are looking forward to.
Yeah, I did too. Did you see the one I did with Tristan?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you know, I've got kind of other offshoots to the story because it goes, you know, there's so many parts to it, particularly when I started to really have some health issues when I was about fruitarian in 2014. But obviously, you know, it's 20 years, so it's a long time. And then back prior periods of vegan and vegetarian is very different era to now of what the vegans are like, the militants. So yeah, but yeah, we can discuss also, you know, how I hit the wall, what happened in the last leading up to that, because I think there'll be common issues that a lot of people relate to. But the other thing I've had people to say too, because I've got a background, qualified background, there's another thing that you mentioned, which I've also said as well in my last video, first of all about abuse, which I won't tolerate any either, like you. Had a lot dished out. Obviously I've had heaps because, you know, I was considered a bit of a guru and I had books out and all kinds of things. But yeah, also about all these young people just giving out advice, and people are just jumping on, and it's all generic, and they've had no formal training whatsoever, let alone experience with a vast number of people. Yeah, with lots of So yeah, and you mentioned it too, which is a good point, because I don't know how people are doing this, but they are, you know. So anyway, that was something I thought that was really great when you mentioned that too. And so yeah, so obviously, you know, I've got digestive health background and you know, vibrational medicine, homeopathy, and all that kind of stuff too. So and I think I mentioned too that kind of when yeah, my training, it's like I've had everything turned upside down. You've probably listened to my videos, some of the stuff I'm finding out through just my experiences and with people. So yeah, so I'll let you just and you know, you can come in and so forth, and I'm just quite relaxed.
Yeah, so am I. I'm curious though, because you've been in the movement for so long, the major differences from when the movement started to, I guess, the new movement now that's going on online, the militant side of it.
Yeah, it's quite it's dramatic. But we can start with that if you like, because I'm actually writing another book, and it was going to be a trilogy, part of a trilogy of raw food, and it's now being totally turned around into something I would never expect, but I do mention that. But yeah, I'm happy to discuss that, because I think they've taken the word, the actual word, and redefined it from the original meaning themselves, you know, because and I'll say that, we can just talk about that. When I was vegan, everyone kind of knew it was a dietary word, and it didn't mean that, you know, vegetarian, you took it that little bit further. But they've now decided to totally change the meaning to suit themselves. And even plant-based, I don't know, you know, because some people say plant-based does include some animal foods, but anyway, yeah. So
I don't like the plant-based. Like, plant-based to me would mean that the base of your diet is plants and you still consume some animal products. But vegans want the vegan word to be exclusively just for animal rights, but we don't have a word to describe a vegan diet, like a diet that excludes every single animal product. And so that's why I always refer to it as the vegan diet, because that's the only way to describe excluding or depriving yourself of all animal products.
The Webster Dictionary meaning, the original meaning is it's a dietary term. It's nothing else. It's not ethics. It has nothing to do with activism or ethics. It was coined in 1944, and I mean, I used to go to the Seventh-day Adventist retreats in the 70s. So that's what vegans and vegetarians, that was what I was also, taught. So that's all it is. It's just, vegan was just that little bit more radical where you didn't have any, and that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely taken, I don't know what's happened, but it's, I've had people say to me, young people, that I should have just not worried about my health and kept going, and it's all about the animals. And I said, I said to them, that's an eating disorder. That's really not healthy, to put your life below an animal's, or to forfeit that. So that's disturbing what's going on, isn't it, really? Do you find that too?
That's probably one of the number one comments that I get on my videos is, it's for the animals. It doesn't matter if you're suffering, or you were never vegan. Because I had to change my ethics because I was withering away. So I think that the idea that you need to, even if you have health problems, that you need to still continue to suffer because it's all about the animals doesn't make sense to me, because we are an animal. So if I am not inflicting suffering on another animal as far as eating them, and then I start inflicting suffering on myself, we're not deflecting suffering. Like, the suffering is still going on. It's just being transferred.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's it's strange to see how this has evolved. But I did see a little video. It was only a couple of minutes of a woman, you may have seen it, who was bringing up this idea of a vegan pledge, a lifelong veganism, and literally, regardless of what happens to your health, you stay a vegan no matter what. And I think part of the video she was saying too that she decided not to eat with family and friends if they were eating violence on a plate, is what she called it. But I really feel that this whole factory farming thing they've almost got tunnel vision. It's not like there's any other, there's no knowledge of other farming practices, what life was like. It's very much tunnel vision. And you may know, I live in Thailand, so I don't even have that experience of the factory farm. It's wild foods, locally, the villagers, sell them at the markets. There's nothing going through these kind of, it's horrid. Everyone hates that. But I think that is the point. That's the thing that really has shifted something really quite, it's swung over. That's not in a good place.
Yeah.
But it is hard to have discussions with people when they're in this frame of mind, and
very hard.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for ex-vegans to kind of communicate that, like, I'm not supportive of factory farms whatsoever. I think that a lot of the points that vegans make is, they have some good points. I don't want to support factory farming. I don't want to. Is the audio messed up? Can you hear me?
I can hear you really well. Yeah.
I don't want to support factory farming. I think that the food system, especially in North America, is very corrupt. It definitely needs your dollar to be changed, but I don't think that veganism is the answer. I think that going back to sustainable farming, smaller farms, buying local is the answer. I don't see the point of, okay, so the world is corrupt, the food system is corrupt. Why should I malnourish myself because the food system is corrupt? Why wouldn't I then choose local, choose better options, choose more ethical options to fix the system instead of just malnourishing myself and suffering.
Yeah, I understand that. And I'm also going to to the side that I used to be on as well. When you're kind of in this mindset, and you would know from maybe 4 years of it, but for the length of time I was, it's such a mental prison, because you're so, like I say, handcuffed to the ideology. And just even mentioning meat, you have this automatic filter and block that comes down, and it really does determine the way your logical thought processes go, you know. So when you're totally closed to that, you can't kind of see other options. It's like, well, why even have those options? It's still, animals are still being killed, is how they're seeing it, regardless of what way is supposedly humane or not humane, or you know. So it is a difficult thing to have these kind of conversations. But I think a lot of the type of information that really needs to get put across is to tackle some of the you know, the climate change arguments they come up with, or I don't like saying they, but I'm just saying vegans come up with, and a lot of it is parroted from other people. And to actually really go into the agricultural side and look back through history and start to look at these things. And I always say to people, look, we have these enzymes in our bodies to break down meat. I mean, vitamin B is a really good example. I mean, if you go back 100 years, no one's ever supplemented with B12 and been on vegan, vegetarian. There's no cultures that. Where was the company manufacturers to make these? It didn't exist. People were all eating meat, you know. So why is it in our physiology to need that? You know, these are kind of logical questions, don't you think?
Yeah, we have digestive enzymes to break down protein. So why would we have that naturally if it wasn't necessary?
Yeah, I think that's a good, because that's in response to the argument, well, we're meant to eat just plants, or we're meant to eat just fruits. I mean, I was fruitarian for 3 years in that 20 years. So it was all very nice and lovely ideology, but so you can see that, and it does take a long time to deconstruct this programming. But when you start to say, well, why are we being made with this? It doesn't make sense, you know, and why do we thrive? I mean, personally, I've put on probably 8 pounds, maybe a bit more. I've never had this weight on me, and people tell me how healthy I look. I used to even this caved in face, and I've got plump cheeks, and I've got, you know, muscle, and because I was getting sarcopenia. And you see, the thing is that you go through and become older, and as you know, the muscle loss when you're older, it's very rapid and can be rapid even in younger people, but more so noticeable when you're older. And I haven't done any exercise as such as to what I was doing before, but I'm putting on this, I just look totally different and feel different. So it's really, really been a huge turnaround, but I'm physically seeing differences, you know.
Yeah, I couldn't keep any muscle mass on. What would happen was I would work out and I would get like a pump, and then like a day or two later I would completely lose that muscle. Like I could not grow muscle or keep muscle on whatsoever. And I had a lot of muscle wasting going on. Like if I missed, you know, like one meal, or if I didn't constantly stuff my face with plant foods, I could not keep weight on. It was so hard. And so it brings up the question, if our digestive system is getting taxed from all these plant products, if we're getting digestive problems because of the overconsumption of plants, how are we made to eat only plants? Like I can't stuff in enough calories to sustain myself. I would eat until I was absolutely full. And obviously you can't keep stuffing yourself. That's not good either. So something has to give.
No, you're totally right. I mean, I just had a conversation with my daughter earlier about, you know, what was going on with me coming out with more videos and talking about my experiences. And she was saying, she remembers me eating gigantic meals of things. And exactly what you said, I would also go to the gym and work out, and 2 days later, it would all disappear again, right? Whatever you gained. But I was starting to, that skinny fat thing, I know, it's like, but to get weight around the middle. But, you know, the insulin resistance was really, really in my face. And as I've said, I think there were so many people who are pre-diabetic. I've got a lot of young people reaching out to me now, particularly fruitarians who've got YouTube channels or vegans, and there's a lot of, what would you say, falling apart behind the scenes going on. So, and they're really, really in a place where, you know, they're stuck place. I think you mentioned that too, where, you know, it's not working. What are you going to do? You know, it's like,
I had the same cognitive dissonance. So vegans always talk about this cognitive dissonance when you learn about, you know, speciesism and all this stuff. So I went through that going into veganism and changed, you know, kind of my mindset. And then once I realized that I was like withering away and it wasn't working anymore for me, I went through the same cognitive dissonance, but it was reversed. So now I had to like undo the vegan programming, and it was another stage of like cognitive dissonance that I had to go through. I still have to tell myself like, this is okay. Like, it's okay to eat this. It's okay, because I went through a stage where I would try and be vegan for a couple days, because I'm like, I'll try and, you know, be as vegan as I can, and I'll just have a little bit of animal products because I don't want to cause suffering. This was my transition phase, and what happened is the days that I had a lot of animal products, I would feel amazing, and so I would get my energy back, and then I would have a couple days of vegan eating, and I would feel like crap again. All my pain would come rushing back. I would be miserable, and then I would eat animal products again, and then I'd feel great, and then I would try and be vegan again, and it just wasn't working. And so I came to the conclusion that, like, okay, now I know what it is. I experimented enough, and I know that I cannot eat fully vegan. I have, literally, I'll get like raging back pain if I eat beans or nuts or seeds or legumes, like anything that will sustain you on a vegan lifestyle, I get pain from.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. It's funny, you know, when I first started the raw food thing, 1999, and you know, Shazzy, do you remember Shazzy? She was a raw food queen then. She was blogging on her transformation. She was a really pivotal person that really got it into the mainstream, and David Wolfe was also had his book Nature's First Law, Raw is Law. And and I remember doing that experimentation of going raw for a few days and then back to some animal foods and then back to that, and making the comparisons. And I certainly felt really fantastic on raw foods then, but you know, fast track down when you've got a whole bunch of nutritional deficiencies going on. And I just wanted to mention too, I think the immune system breakdown is becoming more common. It's not often talked about though, because it shows up in a lot of different ways, and people often say all of a sudden when they've enjoyed this period of not getting colds or feeling quite robust, all of a sudden they start to, you know, they're around somebody with a cold and they then get, you know, the bacteria that come in that kind of don't have that protection. And certainly happened to me. I had a couple of bouts of food poisoning that in Thailand that other people it didn't occur to. But when I got back to Australia, I had some tests done. I had some quite virulent bacteria in E. coli, a very unusual strain of E. coli that had gone into the small intestine. It took me 2.5 years to eradicate, but I had to take a truckload of supplements. I was so depleted in minerals too because of this, you know. But of course, I still clung to this, oh, can't be the diet, you know, it's something else. And then I kind of yeah, I had this accident in 2012 that really was one of the straws that broke the camel's back, because I had, cracked my right patella and in an accident, and 2 cracks, and was immobile for about 13 weeks. And then I still had this clicking in the knee, so I had some surgery. After the surgery, I got this flu that I'd never experienced before. Again, my immune system was just like, whoa, it's teetering, And then, bang, I woke up one morning and I could not move. Wow. I had fibromyalgia. I didn't know at the time, but I was racked with pain, like you're saying, inflammation. And that began a nightmare of not being able to go to sleep. I dreaded nights coming because there was the inability to fall asleep. Like you're saying, you're exhausted. Yeah. And then when you did, about 4 o'clock in the morning, you'd have to get up again. So just like it's the inflammation, not wanting to go back to having that in the body. And but still, I still stayed onto it, and it wasn't until the end of last year and the year before, when I had some really major things happen, that I was down on my hands going, I can't do this. Teeth breaking, and the blood sugar thing. So that's what I was saying. The immune system was low, and I got some more infections. But as soon as I started eating meat, my immunity is strong. I've had some things that I perhaps would have avoided because I'm in Thailand with the water and things, and it hasn't affected my immune system. It's definitely much stronger. And of course, cholesterol plays a big part in that, of course, not having that. So I think that has to do with the weight gain too. And when I kind of say to women need fats. They need to preserve their hormones. Women are always asking, how can I stay youthful, There was a long period of my vegan journey where I was eating heavily onto the fat side, because I kind of intuitively knew women needed fats. Yeah. But of course, those fats weren't the same. But now I everything is running much better. And but the thing is, the immune system. I think people have said that to me too. They're finding they're weaker, they're more susceptible to infections, they don't heal as fast. Yeah, you've probably heard that as well.
I think cholesterol and saturated fat is very protective, because what would happen is, like, I would have like a high animal fat diet one day, and the next day I would try and eat vegan, and I was okay. And then the next day I would try and it got worse. And the next day I would try and it got worse. So my theory was that the cholesterol and the saturated fat is actually protecting me, protecting my nerves, protecting my cells, protecting my body from the damage that these inflammatory plant foods were doing to me. And then because I had been so depleted from cholesterol, once I kind of veered away from eating animal products again, body's trying to communicate with me, no, go back there, like, you need that, not that. And I went through a period when I first went vegan. It was about a year that I felt great. And I think that has to do with the enzymes. Like, the standard American diet is very depleted in enzymes. It's a lot of processed food, cooked food. But there's also enzymes in animal products, but because of the poor quality, overcooking, all of that, I think most people are depleted in enzymes. And so you feel so great when you're transitioning over from a standard American diet to a plant-based diet because of the increase in enzymes. But then it kind of transfers into a depletion of nutrients over time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and of course, raw plants, I've seen so many transformations myself through my own programs, plus when I used to teach at Raw Food Institute. And plants, they definitely have the cleansing ability to throw all waste out of the cells into the bloodstream, and especially with juice fasting, for 3 or 4 days. And that's indicative, people start to feel when wastes are coming in. You know, they're more noticeable than when they're in storage, and they start to feel nauseous and all these things happen, headachy, and so they have those incredible abilities to do that. And certain, as you know, certain fruits and vegetables, particularly watermelon, they're attuned to different organs in the body, and they help the kidneys function better and so forth. I mean, that's another thing I like about your approach, is because of the, you know, my background too in plants and herbs, and I think they're extremely valuable in a diet, and I tend to like the wise women traditions, you know, and I've lived many times in the mountains and lived with nature and foraged a lot, and you know, seasonally, and had different you know, clover when that was in season, and berries and weeds and mushrooms and all the rest. And I was always attracted to that when I was a girl, like when the gypsies used to eat like that, and I loved that. But they have incredible value, and I think it's really important that we don't discard that value, you know, because they're very cleansing. I've seen some incredible transformations with raw food, but like I said, it's when to stop. And I think this whole movement has been about, well, let's just take it and carry it through our life. And it's a wonderful, you know, ideology and picture to paint, and we love that. I mean, I got to admit, I mean, you might be the same. I used to love walking in the kitchen, seeing all these incredible bowls of smelling fruit, aromatic smells, and the kitchen smelling that. So it was a huge transition for me to do this, but I had to take all fruit out because of my blood sugar. It was just a mess. And of course, you know, I've spoken to a lot of people who had dreams of coming to Thailand purely because of the abundance of fruit that's available there all year round. And it's a veritable feast, you know, and I just go crazy with the durian and that. But my acupuncturist was the person who really pointed it out last year. I was, diabetic almost, pre-diabetic, but on that, you know. It's easy to get caught up in thinking that that's giving you the energy when it's actual sugar addiction.
That's why I made that video. Trying to explain to people like the differences between animal products and plant products, because I see this shift online where people are like, okay, so the vegan diet did this to me and it wasn't, you know, the answer. So now I'm going to go all the way to the opposite side and eat like 100% animal products, instead of like still recognizing that there is value in plants, and there are certain times in your life where you need plants or you need herbal medicine, and to recognize and to listen to your body. Okay, so I need to detox right now, or I need to consume a certain plant product because I have this issue going on, or I need to rebuild because I detoxed for too long, so now I need to eat a lot of animal products. So I'm eating a lot of animal products right now because I need to recover from my vegan diet. But in the future, I will probably start incorporating more plant products because it's about balance. I don't think, like, I have some clients who are recovering from veganism and they ate a lot of animal products and now they're starting to crave some plant products again.
Yes, I found that myself as well. Yeah, I was actually ravenous, and a lot of people that I've worked with too, initially, it's almost like you can't get enough into you. You're so depleted. And I was like, how am I going to stop this? I'd have, you know, some sardines and I'd want more, or fish. And, you know, in another different, depending where you are in the world, you start to explore what options are available for animal foods around you, you know. Personally, I'm not attracted to, or my body doesn't call for dairy since I was kind of young. But it was done in increments before I got to the red meat, because I knew, you know, vitamin B12, but also anemia. I had periods of it being anemic when I was raw vegan, and I had injections, you know, and it was, you don't want to go there. But some do. And then, you know, that still didn't shift me. I'd have a few eggs to appease the partner I was with at the time, and then back into raw veganism, you know. It's just incredible how it how it just gets you in its grip, you know.
Yeah.
But and like you, the same thing about oscillating back and forwards right now. And I must admit that I actually started to have quite a good amount, particularly the fats. I found that my body was really wanting those. But yeah, it seems to have lessened a little, and I still understand the other side too, where people are having a lot of difficulties with the the anti-nutrients in plants and oxalates and so forth. My feeling is that, and when I look back the 20 years ago and even before that, there wasn't the interference with the plants as there is now, you know, chemicals and the glyphosates, and they're in everything. And these are things that are causing havoc in people's digestion. Hence, these inability to, I mean, let's face it, no one was having truckloads of kale anyway.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous, isn't it? So some of those people get quite, you know, taken back and are very strong that they can't possibly have plants at this point, because they feel that that's caused so much damage in them, and that meat now is the only thing that does not bring these symptoms back, the fury in them, you know. So I can understand that, but yeah, it's an interesting thing to observe, isn't it?
Yeah, I personally think it's an experiment, because I don't understand how medical doctors can be trained in the medical field and tell somebody that one diet is good for everybody.
Yeah.
I don't understand that concept, you know. I don't understand the concept of vegan is good for every single stage of life or every single person, because naturally it's very high in carbohydrates. It's just very hard to eat a vegan diet that's not high in carbohydrates. And so knowing that this affects blood sugar and other issues in the body, how can you tell somebody that, especially a diabetic, eat a vegan diet? Don't worry about your blood sugar. Don't worry about all the issues. Just eat a vegan diet. You're not doing it properly. It's not logical to me. So I have to think, like, what are your motives here? What are these vegan doctors' motives? Because it's clearly not in the best interest of any patients that they have.
No, you're right. I mean, even, what was it? Gosh, in the early 2000s, when I'd go to some of these festivals, the vegan, World Vegan Day, they'd be lucky if there'd be a handful of people there. And if you had have been, you know, telling people that who had an existing condition like diabetes, these people would have thought you were nuts, because we were more acceptable of that we did need meat. I would never, to be honest with you, Megan, have dreamed in a million years we'd be in a position, this would be happening now, that it had gone from vegans being this tiny minority that was seen as quirky and just a bit okay, to this real push now to almost force people in increments to go vegan, you know, and knowing that it does create these health problems long term. And I can see what you're saying. These doctors that are vegan doctors, say, or proponents of veganism, and giving out this advice, it doesn't make sense. A lot of it doesn't. It's very easy to pull apart and see what's going on here, to see that it's being funded and there's other vested interests involved.
Yeah, I had, on my last video, I had a 14-year-old girl comment that she's been vegan for 3 months and she started having a lot of health problems, and it just broke my heart. I told her, like, if you need help with what to eat, just email me, like, it's free of charge. I'm willing to help you, because these young people are lost. They're going to YouTube for answers, and what they come across on YouTube is plant-based doctors, Freely, and they look up to Freely for some reason. and she gives some of the worst nutritional advice that I've seen of any vegan online. At least some of these plant-based doctors are saying, you know, eat some fat, eat some protein. But Freely's diet is very fruit heavy. For someone like a 14-year-old who's growing and going through puberty, it's probably the worst thing that you could do. You need fat for your hormones going through puberty. Like, very essential. So she's not the only one. There's so many young girls out there that look up to Freely and that are having health problems and digestive problems. Like Goji Man's channel, most of his content is SIBO. Like all these vegans have SIBO problems. It's for a reason. Carbohydrates feed SIBO.
Well, that's right. And like I said, the types of foods they're eating these days, we didn't have these packaged, vegan bars, vegan muffins, vegan brownies, vegan this, vegan that. I've had vegans say to me, oh, we'll go out for a drink and something to eat, and they'll look at the menu and their eyes are just looking for the word vegan. It doesn't matter if it's got sugar and if it's got processed this, that, the other. It doesn't matter. So it's almost like they're blindsided by it. They can't see. But that's definitely happening a lot. These younger people are confused. I mean, there's so many facets to this too, with social media fueling to the self-doubt and the lack of confidence in people's body image. And I think Freely is also one side, but there's a lot of other young girls who are putting themselves as vegan influencers out there. There's a couple of sisters, I think, from Hawaii that have a you probably know of them.
Oh, Nina and Randa?
Sorry?
Nina and Randa? Or are you talking about Ellen Fisher and...
Yes. So they have, they've got families and they have a different, more of a balanced lifestyle and such. It's not the extremities living out in the jungle. And, it's a lifestyle that people can relate to that's normalized in some fashion. And they've got kids. And that is an area that I find some young mums are coming to me who have had vegan children and now wearing the consequences of that, and they're just devastated. These are only young kids. They're only still under 2. And it breaks my heart to see this, because it's just beyond me, when they're looking at seeing that they copy and paste this paragraph that's where it's come from. The World Dietary Association says a plant-based diet is suitable for all ages. And they just accept that. You know what I mean?
They accept it and they don't pay attention to the body. They don't pay attention to the actual proof of what's going on. Like, I feel for them. Like, I think that, that would have happened to me if I got pregnant when I was vegan. That would have been the same thing. I would have raised my child vegan and had to suffer the consequences. But like, I looked up to Ellen. Like, I watched her videos all the time. I thought that she's very compassionate. Her approach is very loving. And even with all these ex-vegans that she knows coming out, she still has a loving approach. So I appreciate that she's not militant, but I also noticed how vibrant and healthy she looked in her earlier videos. And now you see the physical degeneration, and it's heartbreaking because she's a good person. Like, she cares about the environment, she cares about the animals, and that's the sad thing, is that veganism grabs a hold of these good people and it plays off of your emotions. And so what tends to happen is really good people get sucked up in it and they suffer extreme damage because of it.
Yeah, and it's very easy to put it down to something else. The diet's not the culprit. And sometimes you have to have some really major red flags. But, it's like I said, there's a lot of vegan influencers now that are really impacting on young girls, and the social media, it's all tied up. And then you've got this slew of knowledge and that's just being downloaded off the internet, and these people have no idea what advice, and they feel like they can give that and really they can't, you know, they're just, but like I say, that people are just grabbing at straws. They want help and they don't know where to turn. And so, you know, like you and I, and there's going to be a lot more other ex-vegans, I'm not saying that as much now, but people have gone through those experiences and have come out the other side and have really healed themselves in ways they would never have thought of. I mean, with this video that I mentioned earlier of this girl talking about the pledge to veganism, it was a clip, and she's walking through this wooded area, and she was gasping for breath. She's just doing a normal walk, a stroll, filming with her phone, speaking slowly, and you hear her, and
yeah, that happened to me.
Noticeable. Yeah, myself too.
I was like, I felt like I was obese or something. Like I was always like, like literally struggling to breathe. And I don't know if that is your respiratory muscles, your lungs are deteriorating. I don't know what causes that struggle.
Part of it, B12 anemia, which is so common. I mean, people say to me that they haven't had B12 deficiency, but even those tests, they're really on the low spectrum. And so B12 anemia, and you know, even CoQ10 is another thing. A lot of people take that supplement, but that's also obtainable through organ meats, and there's minute amounts in, say, kale and broccoli, but you know, it's again, people don't absorb it, so that definitely affects the capacity to bring in oxygen and exchange in the cells. But I noticed it too, and I had a background of smoking when I was younger, because that was how it was. You know, everyone smoked. People were even studying naturopathy in those days would smoke. But anyway, I kind of put it down to, oh well, I've just probably got a little bit of, you know, shortness of breath. But I was surprised. Within a month, I'd say, of eating animal foods, good on them, my lung capacity increased.
The other thing I noticed is that I was constantly thirsty, no matter how many juices, vegetable juices I drank, no matter how much alkaline water I drank, no matter how hydrated I thought I was getting, I was constantly thirsty. It wasn't until I started eating high fat that I actually felt, cellularly hydrated. Like on a cellular level, I felt hydrated, whereas before I could not drink enough water. I would get anxiety if I didn't have a water bottle with me somewhere, because I didn't want to drink tap water, but I knew that I constantly needed water.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? You just down, and yet you're having such a high water diet, really, as well. Gosh, there's so many things, isn't there?
Pounding back all the hydrating foods, not realizing that saturated fat and cholesterol is hydrating as well.
Yeah, you know, I just listen to people who, the stories they have, and of course, obviously, I'm watching other channels and seeing the, you know, ex-vegans and content other people are putting out who've also feel to help others, because they're now come through the other side. And I think there's such a difference when you start having these foods again, and it's really hard to comprehend. But like I said, it's a mental struggle at first to really undo this programming, because it's just so intense, and it's coming at us all at mainstream now. And I can understand why these younger people not having a comparison of what things were like before, just so confused and just being bombarded with so much misinformation, and they've really lost trust with their own body. That's the main thing, which is really sad. I think these days I kind of act more as a guide for people to connect with themselves, to trust it more than anything else. It's the mistrust they have. Well, I don't know if my body really wants that, or, you know, it just becomes very confusing. And I think also you probably see too the whole vegan lifestyle is very appealing because it's all tied in with the environment and green thing and trendy. And
yeah, that's the other thing is they lure you in with, you know, the bikini bodies and the tropical environment and all that, and that's all great when they're using you know, aesthetics to lure you in, but then the second that you're concerned about the detrimental effects, like I had like deep nasolabial folds going on, I had deep eye bags going on, my skin was aging, I was getting skinny fat, all of these, you know, superficial, they would say, things, then they tell you you're not allowed to care about those things. Now it's about the animals. So when veganism is making you pretty, it's okay, but when veganism is making you ugly, it's not okay to care. They can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
Like it's any argument you have against veganism, they're like, oh no, this. You just turn it around and change it, but you can't have it both ways. It doesn't work like that.
Well, I mean, a lot of the time you don't have a choice. You get to the point where you're not sleeping anymore. You've got so much pain. You're racked with inflammation. You can't focus. Your whole life is falling apart. You don't have a choice. You're either going to fall apart, and that's the end of a lot of things, projects and dreams that you had, and because your body's just not, it's not meeting you. It's not carrying you to be able to do these things and live a functional life. And it's devastating when that happens. I think that's the biggest shock, because when your body lets you down, when deep cracks start appearing in raw nirvana land, is what I say, it is such a shock to the psyche, because you're supposed to be on the best diet, you know, and it really does. It's like, and then goes the loss of identity, and it's so much tied in with it, isn't it? With just
so I kind of had like a unique experience because my best friend went vegan around the same time that I did. And so I watched both of our faces go from like collagen plumped faces to having the exact same facial symptoms. And so because I was noticing in myself and her, I couldn't deny it. If it was just happening in myself, I don't think I would have paid attention to it as much. But because she was going through the exact same things, I was like, okay, something's wrong here. Something's going on.
Well, that was great that was happening, because it was something that you had mirrored back to you almost, wasn't it? Yeah. I know sometimes it takes another person to point something out, or, you know, people arrive at their own darkest hour by all different ways, but it's just, there's so many aspects to it. And I think, like you said, just people go into veganism not for ethical reasons. I certainly didn't. I went in it, and it wasn't even health at the time. It was just pursuing rejuvenation protocols. It wasn't until later on that my health, you know, things started to happen. But I think that we're told, see, people have even said to me, oh, you know, you've led all these people into veganism. Don't you feel bad? Don't you feel that? You've got to realize that I was also led. All the information that was pouring out at the time in the early 2000s, David Wolf, and all those kind of people that were presenting incredible arguments, not just arguments, but giving us knowledge and information that we weren't aware of what raw foods could do. And so it was very easy to, wow, you know, and also to just do it, go on a raw food diet or vegan diet for a short period of time, and you got the benefits, and you thought, yeah, there's something to this. But now it's taken on all these other aspects, hasn't it? It's like
it's gone from caring about health to be like bullying and shaming and dogmatic and extreme. And it's just so sad. Like when you see these big YouTubers come out and say, like, I can't do it anymore, my body's falling apart. Oh, how dare you? You should care more about the animals than your own body. It's like, how does a logical person say that to someone?
But like you said, you know, we can see this with the nutritional deficiencies. I mean, I have to admit, and my close friend, my daughter also say that, you do get hyper emotional.
Yeah,
I don't know about yourself, but I can see some things. But the longer you see the people going extreme and clinging on, even though Sean Baker even heard this term was end-stage veganism.
Yeah, I couldn't even watch scary movies because I was so sensitive to everything. I couldn't handle anything. I couldn't handle an argument. I couldn't handle confrontation. I couldn't handle scary movies. I couldn't handle watching the animal abuse videos. I was so hypersensitive.
Yeah, and you know what's so really good is, I mean, I was the same. If all of a sudden I couldn't find my wallet or keys or something that was held up in some way in a plan, you know, that wasn't smoothing, I just was, I didn't cope well with it. And there was this underlying speediness going on too, I think, with the fruit. And I mean, most people are having fruit smoothies for breakfast and fruit through the day and maybe big, salads. And they're just on this sugar roller coaster. And you get used to this normal hyped up way of being that's, it becomes addictive. Because it's because you misinterpret it as natural energy, as a good thing. You don't ever think that your blood sugar is going haywire, until you can't sleep at night. Well, I think that was another thing. But this is so important, us talking about these things, because all the people who are watching this, and women in particular, are going to be relating to this, and they're going to see that this is not just random things happening to people. This happens to everybody from these nutritional deficiencies that obviously come from us not having those animal foods that we've been made to eat. Like I say to people, we have the hydrochloric acid, pepsin, all these things that make meat go into liquid, and the process of that. And I also just did a video on, on this whole myth around parasites and meat being acidic and constipating and toxic. It's all
rotting.
Total lies. I did a parasite cleanse I mentioned, and just 3 days into starting to eat more animal foods, and I had a mass bundles of adult worms expelled, and a lot of bacteria and mucus, and it was all from the diet, the high starch, high sugar diet. There's nothing,
I had a lot of parasites on my vegan diet, and how is that possible if parasites are just coming from animal products? Because I did a few parasite cleanses until I didn't see parasites come out, but I had continued to get them on a vegan diet because I was creating an environment that they could inhabit. And that's what I explain to people about SIBO, is if you get SIBO on a vegan diet, your vegan diet is not serving you. And the whole meat rotting in the colon thing, if you have insufficient hydrochloric acid or insufficient bile, your digestion's not working properly, yes, it's going to rot. Everything's going to rot. So it's key to fix your digestion to be able to digest the meat. It's not the meat's fault. It's your digestion's fault.
That's exactly right. And of course, you see that all the time. The low hydrochloric acid, you're going to see undigested bits of food, and you'll have difficulty passing stools, and think, there'll be a lot of things that aren't normal. I think most people I've spoken to who are vegans always said they had mushy kind of poos, and they weren't healthy, It's not just, you might be able to get one here, there, but that amount of fiber coming out. But you're absolutely right. And I also said this too, that this whole detox thing, it is a scamming thing in a way, because, it gets you in that cycle. Like I said, this is the environment that pathogens and infections breed in, and if you're continuing doing these detoxes and still eating the same diet, you're going to still be expelling the same material. It's like, well, okay. But the irony of it is, Megan, and even in my training, going back, 37 years ago, I was taught a lot of this stuff, and it's in, I mean, even some of the up-and-coming naturopaths are saying that there's more heavily leaning towards plant-based things, and everything is vegan, vegetarian, plant-based. Meat's really getting pushed out. So
there's
got
now
a system.
sorry.
Yeah. No, yeah, go on.
Yeah, what's sad to me is that there's now a stigma in the nutrition community or the natural health community that you're wrong and you're doing something wrong if there's animal products in any part of your recommendations. Like it's looked at as you don't know what you're talking about. But then your clients are getting results, so
yeah, you're not following the program.
Like people have told me, like commented on my page, you're not a real nutritionist, your training is not this and that because you're promoting animal products. And I'm like, okay, you'll learn one day when you're in end stage veganism. When you experience end stage veganism, then come back.
Yeah, I think, like you said, when you see people deteriorate their whole facial structure, I mean, I know that look straight away because I had it too, very sunken in the cheeks. People used to say to me I was getting really, and you're trying to get this doe-eyed look, which is appealing in a way. People say to me, oh, now you've got your eyes a bit more squintier because you're eating meat. I'm like, oh, God, things people say. But, I've got, like you were saying too, I've got a Russian father who's got incredible skin, smooth as a baby, He's always eating a lot of meat and fats.
Yeah. And
they're known for that, and I was losing all this, but now it's kind of all come back. I think this is cool. But women sort of, that appeal to vanity in a way. We all want to look our best, right? We want to look as youthful as we can. And if women only knew that over a long period it's going to destroy your looks, I mean, that's the last thing that they want to comprehend because we're being told it's the opposite. But yeah, I think there's other channels showing, I think vegan deterioration, there's a few others that are showing, and even Katyas, who Katyas was doing the ones with the epitome of malnutrition. I think when you start to have it presented to you and you see other people and then you start go, yeah, wow, it has obviously been a penny dropper for a lot of people. That's a phrase we use. They've opened their eyes to it, you know what I mean? But a lot of time you're blind to it, if you're with other people who look the same.
Yeah, exactly.
All got this sunken in face. Yeah. And I think when I first did the fruitarian thing and there was the 80-10-10 crew around, I used to go, oh my gosh, I don't want to look like that. Yeah. I used to notice how they were very shriveled and dried out and wrinkled early, and I thought something's not right. And so I never kind of did that mythology, if you like. It was my own twist on fruitarian, but and even still, like you say, people will go through their life and lose teeth and have pain and inflammation and just handle it. And I think what kind of quality of life is that? But anyway, I think we're doing a great thing. With our stories and also helping others. And with our experience, like I said, we've both got professional backgrounds in these areas and, and our own experiences. Yeah. I mean, you can't deny the muscle. I mean, clavicle bones, big hollows, they're all filling out. It's really cool because, like I said, when you get older, it's not good to be really thin, it just is not good for you. And I think I got to a point too where my body was taking so much out, it's cannibalizing itself. And
I felt it. Like I felt my body eating itself. Like I knew it was happening. Because you would wake up the next day, I knew that I had just worked out and I should wake up the next day and I should have gained a little bit of muscle. I wake up the next day and I lost muscle because in order to repair that damage that I inflicted during exercise, my body needed to catabolize itself. to break things down to be able to heal that damage. So I wasn't getting enough nutrition.
Yes, you didn't have the building there to do the repair and make the collagen and all the matrix for around the joints, and it just didn't have the materials coming into the body, So yeah.
I tore my piriformis just from a stretch, just from stretching. I tore my piriformis in my hip.
Wow. Yeah.
27 years old.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've heard that from other younger people, injuries, and they just don't heal as well. And really, when you're young, that shouldn't be happening, really, should it? It should be faster healing and recovery. And particularly if you're active, and that's when you really notice these things. So, so for all those watching, it's going to have ramifications down the track, and really think twice if you're contemplating having a vegan pregnancy, or go and talk to other mothers who've now and are dealing with kids with really weakened immune system. Their teeth, the first set of teeth are coming through rotten. That would be heartbreaking. And they've got a lot of other developmental problems, particularly in the jaw, that hasn't developed well. All these problems here. I also noticed too, some vegans have said they notice their hearing is starting to decrease. But I noticed when I started eating animal foods, my hearing got better. So all these little things, that you don't connect to it, right? And until they improve.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that my boyfriend, he said when we were both vegan, and then I switched first, I brought it to him first. He said, I feel great. I feel fine. Like, I still want to be vegan. And I said, okay, that's fine. And then a month later, he wanted to try raw milk and some other animal products. And he said he noticed like a huge difference, but in the middle of veganism, he thought he had felt fine. And I think that is important to note too, is that you might think that you feel fine because you've gone so long not having certain foods. And so, one, your body doesn't remember what it felt like before. And two, you're just in this survival mode of feeling fine off of what you're eating. And for some people, the deterioration doesn't set in until like 20 years later. Like, I would have never lasted as long as you. Like, I deteriorated so fast that I couldn't go any longer than 4 years. Some people, they deteriorate in 6 months. It just depends on your body.
Yeah, but admittedly, I've said I was eating eggs every 12 months. I just that was just so intense. It really was a saving grace. Plus, I think I've come from a good constitution, the Russian, that side. But definitely people who've had, weaker constitutions and, perhaps had a life where there's been enormous stress and things, they don't have the resilience in many ways, and they're depleted before they even go into veganism, So, but like you said, the digestive problems are just increasingly going out of control, aren't they? I think, and it's just going to just get worse and worse. So this is it. I mean, like I said, the thing with the vegan foods now, because there's such a demand for it, and the processed vegan foods that weren't available when, I was doing veganism, like you're saying, the cheeses, the packets of this, a lot of it is still highly processed, right? And very much emphasis on grains and legumes and those kind of things. So, but as you said, it takes a while. I mean, how long is it since you've been eating animal foods again?
In October, I believe it was, I started with eggs, and I could only do eggs for a month because I couldn't even imagine eating meat. So I thought, like, I'll be fine just eating eggs, and I'll eat like mostly plant-based still. And then I started, once my strongest craving was for eggs. I wanted kind of raw, runny egg yolks, but then I started having cravings for fish, and it was just like a cascade effect. And then it got to the point where my body started rejecting all plant foods, and I only wanted animal food. So in order to have a nutritious, calorie-dense diet, I had to start incorporating red meat, and I had to start incorporating other meats. And then that's when I really realized that I can't only eat eggs. Like, that's not going to do it. I need more of a balanced, nutrient-dense, varied animal-based diet to really heal from this. And I started doing the bone broths. So it was almost like each month I started introducing something else. So first it was eggs, and then fish, and then bone broth, and then meat. Red meat was one of the last things, and organs. And I really started noticing a huge difference when I incorporated the organs. That was when my liver was in such shambles. From one, I took Accutane, and then two, the vegan diet. And I had done liver cleanses and liver flushes and milk thistle and all that stuff to try and get my liver back on track. And it would temporarily help, but nothing was permanent until I started eating liver. And so I'm sure you're familiar with like glandular therapy and eating organs.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And that was the missing part for me, was the organs.
Yeah. It's interesting because, you know, I never in my wildest dream thought I would transition out of veganism in Thailand, the place where I thought I'd be in for heaven. So in comparison to what's available in Australia in animal foods, it's quite limited in some ways, and the quality of meat is nothing like Australia. Okay, so a lot of people don't eat beef. Pork is the main meat that the Thais eat. And I was being able to get some organic pork, and I was really like, oh, I'm not eating pork. I wasn't even eating when I was eating meat. But I had a couple of conversations with some ex-vegan friends, and who got me into these groups, and we had a talk, and he said, just try it, go and try it. I'm sure the fat's now. So I had to do that in steps. And I actually did find it was really calming and satiating. It had this calming effect, right? And the chicken livers, well, there's an enormous amount of chicken livers here, and they're very cheap. And I started having those. I haven't seen beef liver at all, but I know chicken livers to me are a lot more palatable. They don't have that iron taste, and so I've been having those, and I really enjoy them too, and I think that's really helped again. So yeah, but I do remember having that first bit of meat, and I was chewing it, going, I don't really like this. But I did feel a lot different than I did when I had fish and eggs. It was
it's another level.
Did you have that experience too? Did you feel?
It was almost like my body, when I started incorporating animal products, my body was telling me like, hey, like eggs and fish isn't enough. Like, you need more. And so it was weird because I was grossed out by red meat, but at the same time I was craving it. And so I just started with bone broth, because I think what it was that my taste buds just had gotten used to plants, and I didn't have the palate for it. And I had never, ever eaten liver or organs in my life, so I didn't have the palate for it. I don't think you can really crave something if you have never had it, because your body can't really correlate the nutrition with the taste or the smell. So once I started incorporating red meat and liver again, I was craving it like crazy. But I'm still grossed out by it, because that dogma or that vegan mind is kind of still in the back of my head a little bit, and I have to like encourage myself and like find ways for it to not be as gross.
I can relate. I still have a bit of that, I'll be honest with it. I have to be. I'm very I still have days where it just, it's not the same, but I know that it's going to take some time. It's a long time for me to have just been running on this program of vegan and having my identity, my world, everything was tied into it. And so it's like all of a sudden I've got to construct this new person, and I really kind of back away now from labels of vegan, carnivore, this, that, and the other. I really feel that also can put you in a box and with limitations, and it's division and separation. So I kind of, it's an experimentation, and I would never have dreamed I'd be eating, when I first started, I thought, oh, I'll just have a bit and then I'll go back to being real vegan again. I'll just top up, replenish myself. But that hasn't happened. That desire hasn't come back. In fact, the opposite. I'm actually craving more animal foods. And maybe it's my age too, but I certainly am so glad because, you know, going into my later years, I know I feel so much more solid in my body and grounded, and I'm more agile actually. You know, I can easily get over things, and I don't have the aches and pains, and so to me it's a kind of insurance, you know. Yeah, but it will take time. I mean, and the other thing I got was a couple of Siamese kittens, so I had to get up in the morning to start with, and they're carnivores. So I chop up their meat, you know, I don't know, for your dog, and kind of, you know, it was difficult the first few weeks, but now I'm in the rhythm of it, and yeah, it does take time. But the great thing is we've been through it, and when you're getting the benefits, you, I'd say now, because I started in September, it's a lot different to say, and you probably could say that too, than the first month, say you changed as to now. You've already deconstructed some of this really intense adversity to even, you know,
it was
talking about me, you know.
It was a huge life lesson because I had to swallow my pride. I had to tell people I was wrong. I had to break all this conditioning down and completely just humble myself and like kind of rebuild my knowledge.
And
they had taught us this in school, like how beneficial certain animal products were and all of this, but because I was vegan when I was in school, I kind of blocked it out, and it wasn't until I started having my own problems that I was like, wait, I learned this in school, so I had to put the pieces back together.
Yeah, I totally can relate. That's a great thing about this. It's so good to have these discussions with people because you relate to it all, and you can feel the emotion of it all in yourself. And this is the irony of it is, you know, whereas we've become ex-vegans and we actually have more compassion, I feel, for ex-vegans now. I have more compassion. I'm like, I can feel all the struggles they went through. And you really would hope that you had that from the vegan community, didn't you? But it was not to be. But I totally agree. It's not that I didn't know. I was aware of, you know, Western price, paleo and all this. And paleo is quite a big movement in Australia there a few years ago with a guy called Pete Evans that really took it up a few notches. And the ancestral way of eating is a big, and Australia's always been known for being big meat eaters, you know. So that was around, but I was still adverse to it, you know. And even Adonis, you know, I went to one of his lectures in 2010, I think it was, and it didn't do anything for me. But so whatever it takes. But the thing is, the only way you can really have this anchor fully in yourself is through your own experience, right? There really is no other way. So it's like I said, it's great to have this discussion, and certainly want to support you in your endeavours to help people. I mean, you're on the younger end of the spectrum and I'm on the older end, but you know, it's great to be able to have this experience and wisdom to share with other people.
We need as many people as we can to speak up about their experience, because the narrative needs to change. That
definitely
it's not healthy. It's for the animals, but it's not healthy.
No, that's right. And I think there's some films in the works, if I believe. Have you heard that couple that are going sustainability and this kind of thing? And this is a kind of education that younger people need to really have their eyes open to, and to perhaps go out to these farms. Like I said, you know, if you're living in these urban cities, you really are disconnected. You go out and you might pat a cow, a little calf or something. But you have no idea the runnings of a day-to-day life in the farm, and what takes place with animals, and all this kind of thing. So it's a bit of a wake-up call, and that's why I say, you know, when I come out to the rural areas here, I just get so humbled. It's such a simple life, and I see older people who are still vigorous and agile, and they can lift a lot of weight. They're carrying, you know, big baskets of things, and they might be in their 80s, you know. So different. And it's really good to open your eyes up. That's why travel is so good, you know, to these communities, and educate yourself and learn more, and don't get too caught into this tunnel vision of this factory farming thing, because it's not all like this. You know, if you focus on that, it's only going to tear. And like I say, well, someone puts their smart minds together, and we come up with a solution where we can really focus on closing these things down, or changing the way this is all done, you know, because it's horrendous. It is horrendous. No one likes it. And like I said, living out in the areas I have, I've seen animals who just don't even go anywhere near an experience like this. It's very different when their time has come, and they, you know, some of them I've seen just nothing. You know, they don't, it's almost like they know in a way, but there's nothing like that goes on, that horrendous abuse by the workers there. You know, I think that's what really upsets people.
I think we can all agree that factory farming is a problem. That perspective never changed when I went from vegan to ex-vegan. But because of my knowledge, because of the things that I learned while I was vegan, I could make the proper decisions and search out for local farms that were doing it properly or old school. And I'm still against factory farms. I still don't want that to happen. I still care about the environment. All of these, I guess, ethics that I had in veganism still carried through. I didn't just, you know, drop everything and not care anymore. I still care. But I'm fighting the system through a different model, I guess.
That's true. And, you know, I'm seeing also some younger people who are now ex-vegans, who have really found another passionate calling to perhaps even aspire to have their own small local farm, and, you know, permaculture, do these kind of things where it's all based on symbiotic relationships with the soil, with the animals, with the plants, how it used to be, you know, learning these techniques and procedures that people just did naturally, and it was passed on through generations. So that knowledge is lost now. So that's a good thing. I'm hearing a lot more who want to do that. So, and of course the governments don't want us to support these local farms, obviously.
Obviously.
There's that side of it as well, you know. But I think I want to be optimistic and you know, look at that and see more people who are going to support and funnel. And really there are veils being lifted, I think. People are starting to really see the illogical discussions and arguments for being vegan that are put forth by government officials and doctors and all those other people in authority. They kind of starting to see all the holes, you know. Sense. So I envisage that on one side, as maybe the activism may become extreme for veganism, more extreme, there'll be other people who will try to counter that out, you know, a little. And there'll be those drawn to help the children, you know, of vegan mothers or potential vegan mothers, and others, like you were saying, the younger girls now who are just falling trapped into these early veganism when they're not even, you know, their bodies need so much nutrients for growing, and that's all being denied them. And with not really good consequences for them too. So
because it's a trend now. It's a trend.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just keep on and spread the message in whatever ways we can, and so it's great. Yeah.
It was good talking to you.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. I've really enjoyed it. It's great to share our experiences and our passion now for helping other people with this. And like you, I feel emotionally very strong, very, very focused. I almost feel quite a different person. Would you say that in many ways for yourself too? In the way you see things and perceive things and.
Yeah, looking back, I just didn't have the brain power to even see what was going on. I think I got so deficient that I had just fallen into a depression and I couldn't even see things for what they really were. And I think that goes along. A lot of vegans experience that. And so now the nutrition allows me to see things more clearly.
Yeah, I agree. I was also getting that. I was waking up feeling depressed for no reason. And I think that's becoming really evident today. Combine that with technology and the effect of the EMFs and the environment that's changed dramatically for us all that we're living in. These things are impacting on us. You combine that with veganism and you can see how people mentally are really finding it hard to keep it together. And I can see it happening more and more in cities and urban areas, particularly where there's veganism is really LA, California, then there's areas in Australia too, where then this is going on everywhere in Europe, that the deficiencies are really showing up, and those who've been through it and gone out the other end, it's really obvious to notice, isn't it? The irrationality and the depression and the anxiety and even suicidal thoughts and all this kind of thing, because I mean, that was happening. I wouldn't say it's suicide, but I was really depressed there, and I was like, oh, why is this happening? What's wrong? I didn't have any reason like you. And to have it being remedied so quickly with just having animal foods, it's just, it makes you just realize that, we really need to help people. And this is just such an easy solution, just to start eating them, and having the nutrients our bodies are meant to have. It's so simple, really. So, my dear, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Talk for ages. I know I could.
Yeah, I know. There's so much on this topic.
Yeah, there is. There's so many spokes to the wheel.
Wish you the best on your channel.
Thank you so much, and likewise, and I very much enjoyed it. Thank you.
Maybe in the future we can do some collaborations on natural medicine.
Most definitely, yes. Love to. It's a great idea. Okay, have a great day, darling.
You too.
Okay, bye.